Hello everybody, and welcome to my 480 subscriber special, in which I will be breaking down the first episode of Walking with Cavemen, First Ancestors. I'm going to start out this breakdown by pointing out that Robert Winston, the host of the series, has said some rather transphobic things in the past. The episode is, for the most part, set 3.2 million years ago in Ethiopia, the same place and time as Next of Kin in Walking with Beasts. It appears to be based in the Hadar Formation, where Lucy was found in reality, and it was filmed in modern Ethiopia. Australopithecus afarensis returns from Next of Kin, but in a different form. Rather than dodgy CGI, they are played by actors in costume. Australopithecus afarensis was an australopith hominin from the Pliocene, 3.9 to 2.9 million years ago, of East Africa, meaning it lived in the right place and time to appear. The social structure of Australopithecus portrayed in the episode appears to be accurate, forming a harem-like system similar to chimps. It is unlikely that Australopithecus evolved bipedalism in order to make pregnancy more efficient. Just like in Ballad of Big Al, and unlike in Next of Kin, Lucy is based on a real specimen, the famous Lucy fossil. She is believed to have lived 3.2 million years ago at the temporal setting of the episode, and recent findings have shown that Lucy most likely died from falling from a tree rather than being struck in the head by a stick. Ancylitherium returns from Next of Kin in a cameo appearance. It was a Schizotherine calicotherium from the late Miocene to early Pleistocene, 6.5 to 1.8 million years ago, of Eurasia and Africa, meaning it lived in the right place and time to appear. It should have a longer neck and flatter back than is depicted in the series. A crocodile appears. It is externally identified as Crocodylus thorbjarnarsoni. Crocodylus thorbjarnarsoni was a species of crocodile that lived 5.3 to 1.8 million years ago in Kenya, meaning it lived in around the right place at the right time. It is accurately depicted as eating early hominins. Finches appear. These seem to be fawn-breasted waxbills, or Estridula paludicola. They are known from Ethiopia. Dinotherium 2 returns from Next of Kin for a cameo. It was a Dinotherian plesioelephant from the mid-Miocene to early Pleistocene, approximately 23 million years ago to approximately 774,000 years ago, of Africa, Europe, and the Indian subcontinent, meaning it lived in the right place and time to appear. It is possible that Dinotherium would have had a longer trunk, like that of modern elephants. At what point, Robert Winston travels back 5 million years to the Miocene, 8.2 million years ago, in search of the chimpanzee-human last common ancestor, which is live-acted by various apes. The chimpanzee-human last common ancestor is believed to have lived approximately 9.3 to approximately 6.5 million years ago, meaning this is around the right time for him to have been able to find it. Basilosaurus makes a brief cameo, reusing footage from Whale Killer. This is slightly confusing, as Basilosaurus went extinct approximately 30 million years before the setting of the segment in which it appears. A black eagle, Aquila varroa, appears. Black eagles are known from Africa. Eagles of the genus Aquila date back to the Miocene, so it lived in the right place and time to appear. For some reason, the series implies the Australopithecines and our other close relatives were the first animals to display grief, but this is a documented trait in many non-ape animals. And that was First Ancestors. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you for getting me to 380 subscribers, and I will see you next time. I have a second channel and a Discord server, both linked in the description. Goodbye. Hello everybody, and welcome to my 500 subscriber special, in which I will be breaking down the second episode of Walking with Cavemen, entitled Blood Brothers. Before we start, I want to thank you all so much for getting me to 500 subscribers. I should be able to now monetize the channel, so thank you all for that. I can get a little bit of money from this. And now, let's get into the video. The episode is set 2 million years ago in East Africa. Unusually, it doesn't seem to be set around a specific formation, and unfortunately I cannot find any information where the episode was filmed. Paranthropus boisei was an Australopithecine from the early Pleistocene, 2.5 to 1.15 million years ago, of East Africa, meaning it lived in the right time and place to appear. It is believed to be very unlikely that Paranthropus lived in a harem system. It is not explicitly stated, but implied that females would leave their family group to join another group. This is believed to be a likely social structure for Paranthropus. Paranthropus boisei is accurately depicted as sexually dimorphic, and it is still thought to have gone extinct due to over-specialization, meaning it was no longer adapted when the world changed, as depicted in the series. Homo habilis was an Australopith within the genus Homo from the early Pleistocene, 2.3 to 1.65 million years ago, of eastern and southern Africa, meaning it lived in the right place and time to appear. Homo habilis is no longer thought to be the first hominid to make stone tools. In fact, the first stone tools are believed to predate the genus Homo completely, and the idea that eating meat led to an increase in brain size and therefore intelligence in our ancestors has recently been disproven. At the end of the episode, it is revealed that Homo habilis, or at least the ones shown in this episode, are not the ancestors of humans, instead Ergaster being our ancestors. At the time, it was thought that Ergaster had evolved from an earlier group of Homo habilis, but more recent studies have proposed that Ergaster in fact descended from a different hominid, the more recently discovered Homo naledi. Impalas, Epiceras melampus, appear. The genus Epiceras dates back to the Pliocene, 3 million years ago, and impalas are known from eastern and southern Africa, meaning it lived in the right place and time to appear. Dinophilis returns in a cameo appearance from Next of Kin. Dinophilis was a metalurine microdontine, or saber-toothed cat, from the Pliocene to Pleistocene, approximately 5 to 1.2 million years ago, of Eurasia, Africa and North America, meaning it lived in the right time and place to appear. Dinotherium returns yet again from Next of Kin for another brief cameo. Dinotherium was a dinotherine plesioelephantform from the mid-Miocene to early Pleistocene, approximately 23 million years ago to approximately 774,000 years ago, of Africa, Europe and the Indian subcontinent, meaning it lived in the right place and time to appear. It is possible that Dinotherium would have had a longer trunk like that of modern elephants. Ancylitherium returns yet again in a cameo from Next of Kin. Ancylitherium was a Schizotherian Calicothere from the late Miocene to early Pleistocene, 6.5 to 1.8 million years ago, of Eurasia and Africa, meaning it lived in the right place and time to appear. It should have a longer neck and a flatter back. Homo rudolfensis was another early species of the genus Homo, which lived in the Pleistocene, approximately 2.5 to 1.5 million years ago, of East Africa, meaning it lived in the right place and time to appear. Homo rudolfensis is a taxonomic nightmare, being sometimes synonymized with Homo habilis, or alternatively placed within Australopithecus or Kenyanthropus rather than Homo. The Homo rudolfensis appear to use the exact same costumes as the Australopithecus, except potentially with darkened faces in some scenes. Grass is shown evolving in the episode. This was thought to be true at the time of production, but newer discoveries have shown it actually evolved in the Cretaceous. A dung beetle appears. True dung beetles, Scarabaeinae, evolved in the Paleogene, approximately 53 million years ago, and are found almost everywhere on Earth, meaning it lived in the right time and place to appear in the episode. Termites appear. Termites, Isoptera, are an order of cockroach. They date back to the early Cretaceous and are known from Africa, meaning they lived in the right place and time to appear. The behavior of Paranthropoidea eating termites is based on real activities documented in chimpanzees. Honeybees, Apis mellifera, appear. This species evolved in the Oligocene, and by the episode's setting, they were spread throughout Asia, Africa, the Middle East, and Europe, meaning they lived in the right place and time to appear. Vultures appear. They appear to be white-beaked vultures, Gyps africanus. The family to which Gyps belongs to, Accipitridae, dates back to the Eocene and was known from most of Africa, meaning it lived in the right place and time to appear. A lion, Panthera leo, appears. Lions date back to the Pleistocene, and in that time were found throughout Africa, meaning it lived in the right place and time to appear. And that was Blood Brothers. Thank you all so much for getting me to 500 subscribers. I'm so grateful, and I will see you next time when I break down the third episode of Walking with Cavemen, Savage Family. Until then, I have a Discord, I have a second channel, both of those should be available in the description, and I hope you have an excellent day. Goodbye. Hello everybody, and welcome to my 520 subscriber special, in which I will be breaking down the third episode of Walking with Cavemen, Savage Family. If you haven't noticed, there's something slightly different about this video, in that I've got a little drawn avatar in the corner. I'm not sure if this is something I'll continue doing, but it looked like a lot of you liked the idea, so let's just get into the video. Before we get into it, I want to say a couple of little preludes. I might not use a heap of footage from the episode because it features a lot of nudity, which will get the video taken down. The first part and majority of the episode is set 1.5 million years ago in Kenya. The episode also has segments set 500,000 years ago in China and Kenya. The Kenya segments were filmed in Botswana, but I cannot find where the China segments were filmed. Homo ergaster was a species of Homo from the early Pleistocene, approximately 2.04 million years ago to approximately 870,000 years ago, of Africa, meaning they lived in the right place to appear. Although they existed at the right time to appear in the 1.5 million years ago segment, they had already been extinct for at least 370,000 years before the setting of the 500,000 years ago segment. Homo ergaster is sometimes placed as a subspecies of Homo erectus. Homo ergaster is depicted as having tan skin, being portrayed by Caucasian actors, when in reality they would have had much darker skin, similar to modern Africans. Homo ergaster is still thought to be the first hominin to sweat. A wildebeest, genus Conochetes, appears. Wildebeest evolved in the early Pleistocene, 2.5 million years ago, and are found in central southern Africa, as well as in some East African countries, including Kenya, meaning they lived in the right place and time to appear. Swallows appear. These appear to be barn swallows, Hirundo rustica. The family Hirundidae dates back to the early Miocene, and the barn swallow is found in the Americas, almost all of the Asian continent, excluding some of northern Russia, Europe, the very north of the Northern Territory and Western Australia, and most importantly, most of sub-Saharan Africa, meaning it lived in the right place and approximately the right time to appear. African elephants, genus Loxodonta, appear. This genus is historically known from almost all of Africa and evolved in the late Miocene, 7 million years ago, meaning it lived in the right time and place to appear. Given the episode's setting, it is probably an African bush elephant, Loxodonta africana. A baboon, genus Papio, appears. Based on the setting and coloration, it appears to be an olive baboon, Papio nubis. Olive baboons are known from 25 countries in equatorial Africa, including Kenya, and the genus Papio dates back to the early Pleistocene, 2 million years ago, meaning it lived in the right place and around the right time to appear. Giraffes, genus Giraffa, appear. The The genus dates back to the Miocene, 11.6 million years ago, and is found in many places throughout Africa, meaning it lived at the right time in the right place to appear. Given the episode's setting, it is most likely a reticulated giraffe. Giraffa reticulata, or Giraffa camelopardus reticulata. For some reason, the word for cheetah in the Homo ergaster's language is the same as the one in English. It is at this point that the episode jumps forward 500,000 years and travels to China in order to catch up with the descendants of Homo ergaster, who are Homo erectus was a species of Homo from the Pleistocene, 2 million years ago to 100,000 years ago, of Asia, Africa and Europe. If you follow the subspecies model of Homo erectus, then the subspecies featured in this episode is Homo erectus pekinensis, or Peking man, which lived in China from 800 to 250,000 years ago, meaning it lived in the right time and place to appear. The Homo erectus have the same problem as the Homo ergaster, being portrayed as having, and by actors who have, much lighter skin than they would have had in reality. Robert Winston claims that Homo erectus did not use tools, but we have evidence of not just Homo erectus, but Homo erectus specifically in China using stone tools. A tarantula appears. Tarantula is usually used to refer to the family Theraphosidae, but can also refer to the entire order Mygalomorphae. The family Theraphosidae is found in the tropics and south, and dates back to the Cretaceous, meaning that there would have been tarantulas at the setting of the episode. It would be almost impossible to determine which specific species of tarantula these belong to. Gigantopithecus was a huge Shiva-Pithecine pongine from the early to mid-Pleistocene, approximately 2 million years ago to 300,000 years ago, of China, meaning it lived in the right place and time to appear. It is one of the only non-hominin creatures in the Walking With series entirely portrayed practically, and I think the only creature to be entirely portrayed by a puppet. We then returned to Kenya, but still presumably 500,000 years ago, as Winston claims to travel forward 1 million years, but this would place him approximately 500,000 years in the future, in order to catch up with Homo ergaster, who had at the time of this setting been extinct for approximately 370,000 years. Another vulture appears. It looks to be a Rupel's vulture, Gypsorapelii. The family Accipitridae dates back to the Eocene, and the Rupel's vulture is known from the Sahel region, as well as East Africa, meaning it lived in the right place and time to appear. 2 Homo ergaster appear, being portrayed by the same actors playing the ones who had lived 500,000 years before this segment. It is stated that Homo ergaster was the first hominins to use fire. While this is not known for certain, it is thought to be true. And that was Savage Family, episode 3 of Walking with Cavemen. Join me next time for my breakdown of episode 4, the final episode, and I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you so much for getting me to 520 subscribers, and I have a Discord and a second channel, both linked in the description. Goodbye. Hello everybody, and welcome to my 540 subscriber special, in which I will be breaking down the 4th and final episode of Walking with Cavemen, The Survivors. Thank you all so much for getting me to 540 subscribers, and let's just get right into it. The episode is split into 3 different segments, as well as an epilogue, them all at the end. The first is 400,000 years ago in southern England. The next 2 segments are both set 140,000 years ago, one in France, the other in southern Africa. The final epilogue segment is set 30,000 years ago in southern Europe. All of these, except the segment in Africa, appear to have been filmed in Iceland. I couldn't find the filming location for the African segment. The main hominins for segment 1 in southern England are Homo heidelbergensis. Homo heidelbergensis was a species of Homo from the mid-Pleistocene, 700 to 200,000 years ago, of Europe as well as potentially Asia and Africa, meaning it lived in the right place and time to appear. Homo heidelbergensis is no longer thought to be the last common ancestor of Homo sapiens and Neanderthals. Megaloceros returned from Mammoth Journey. Megaloceros was a cervine deer from the early Pleistocene to mid-Holocene, approximately 1.2 million years ago to 7.7 thousand years ago of Eurasia, meaning it lived in the right place and time to appear. Megaloceros giganteus, or the Irish elk, is the specific species that appears in the episode. Megaloceros giganteus lived from the mid-Pleistocene to mid-Holocene, 450 to 7.7 thousand years ago of Eurasia, meaning it lived in the right place and time to appear. The Megaloceros' coloration is almost perfect, although it should probably have a thicker fur coat. We then jump forward 260,000 years to 140,000 years ago and travel to France. Neanderthals returned from Mammoth Journey in a slightly altered form, regular actors rather than actors in makeup, with these being the main characters of the France segment. Neanderthals, or Homo neanderthalensis, were a species of Homo from the late Pleistocene, 130 to 40,000 years ago, of Europe and Western Asia, meaning they lived in the right place to appear, but would not have evolved for approximately 10,000 years after the segment's setting. The actors playing the Neanderthals are of similar skin tone to that which Neanderthals are believed to have had. It is claimed in the episode that Neanderthals weren't able to imagine things, a somewhat common belief at that time, but this is no longer supported. A mountain hare, Lephus timidus, appears. This species dates back to the mid-Pleistocene, and although they are only found in Scandinavia, northern Russia, Scotland, Ireland, and some Mediterranean regions today, their range extended further south into Europe previously. Woolly mammoths returned from Mammoth Journey as well. Woolly mammoths, Mammothus primigenius, were a species of mammoth elephantine from the mid-Pleistocene to late Holocene, 400 to 3.7 thousand years ago, of northern Eurasia and Canada, meaning it lived in the right place and time to appear. Woolly mammoths did not have overlapping tusks. This was a feature unique to Columbian mammoths. The Neanderthals hunt the mammoths by dropping a stone on them from a cliff. There is evidence for this, which was initially interpreted as Neanderthals forcing the mammoths over cliffs, as shown in Walking with Beasts, but between Walking with Beasts and Walking with Cavemen this was reinterpreted, and the more accurate interpretation, which is still believed today, was shown in this episode. The episode then jumps to southern Africa, but stays 140,000 years ago, to catch up with the final hominin introduced. Homo sapiens is a species of Homo that evolved in the mid-Pleistocene, 300,000 years ago, in Africa, meaning they lived in the right place and time to appear. The Homo sapiens are accurately portrayed by actors of African descent. It is believed that Homo sapiens had not left Africa by this point in time. A lizard appears. I am unable to identify it specifically. A beetle appears. It looks to be a Stenocara gracillipes, which is known from the Namib Desert of southern Africa. Darkling beetles, Tenebrionidae, the family that Stenocara gracillipes belongs to, dates back to the Jurassic, so it lived around the right place and right time to appear. A snake appears. It looks to be a member of Samophis, potentially Samophis scocari, the Scocari sand racer. Samophis is found throughout Africa, as well as parts of the Middle East, while Samophis scocari is only known from far North Africa and the Middle East. The genus would almost certainly have evolved by 140,000 years ago, meaning it lived in the right time and potentially the right place to appear. An ostrich egg appears. Hollowed and used to store water, ostriches existed at the right place and time for their egg to appear. For the final segment, the episode returns to southern Europe, but jumps 110,000 years forward to 30,000 years ago. We see Neanderthals here, returning, but unfortunately Neanderthals had been extinct for approximately 10,000 years by this point in time. Homo sapiens is believed to have reached Europe by around this time. Neanderthals are no longer thought to have been outcompeted by Homo sapiens, instead having been absorbed into our gene pool. And that was The Survivors. I hope you enjoyed it. This has been a bit rushed. I've recorded almost all of it the day before it's released. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you join me next time when I'll be breaking down the first episode of Sea Monsters. And believe me, it's going to be a big one. With that aside, I have a Discord server and a second channel, both linked in the description. All music that I used is linked in the description, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.